can't be done with a megaphone. That halal meat can't be is banned. That Muslims can't block the streets and pray on the streets, blocking it up. That we're going to we'd have a policy of going after the Islamists in our society deliberately to free the wider Muslim community from the thugs that police it. Right? Now, as a Christian, I can do that. As a Christian, there's no contradiction to my values. But as a liberal, you can't do anything of what I've just said. Can you?
I would assume if we lived in a direct democracy and that's what the majority of the people wanted, and there was a clear-cut mechanism where noise doesn't get lost, where voices don't get atomized, and it lands in parliament, and if that was what the majority of people want, then banning the Sharia law or banning halal meat could in terms actually go through. But from a democratic standpoint,
from a liberal point of view,
from a liberal point of view, because that's a current political
exactly.
architecture we have.
We're not arguing. This is not an argument about Christianity v democracy.
No.
This is an argument about Christianity v liberalism.
How do you realistically
secularism.
get there to this vision that you want
Right.
under a law?
Yeah,
that is
I'll answer that question. So, firstly, people like me have a job to raise the minds and the consciousness of the Christian church, to get the Christian church to realize that they should have a political vision, right?
Okay. Yeah.
People like you need to recognize that Fraternite, Egalite and Liberte has failed, and that the secular Republic of France is failing, and that you need to ally yourself to the church in building a new Christendom, because that Christendom will protect you from Islamization.
Yes.
Right?
And would it collide with the current political architecture, you think?
Oh, yeah, it would, yeah, absolutely.
It would be one or the other?
Yes, we've got to make a choice. Do we want liberalism or do we want Christianity?
And do you think that the people of the United Kingdom are entitled, or the people that want that are entitled to believe that, if today as we speak, they're actually a minority in the country?
Of course, as Christians, we see, the thing is, our right to follow our religion does not depend upon the permission of others.
Yeah.
We follow God, we don't follow the majority. And so if God tells us to go right and the majority tell us to go left, then we go right. If God tells us to go straight and the majority tells us to go right, we go straight. Like, we as Christians shouldn't be sheep following the rest of the herd. We as Christians should be sheep following Christ.
Theoretically, is that not exactly the point that you could criticize about Islam within the UK?
Muslims are doing that. But I don't criticize them for doing that. You do, I don't. A conservative does, but I don't. A Republican does, but I don't. I've got no problem with Muslims being Muslims, right? I just think that Christianity should rule, and therefore Muslims should be free to practice Islam only insofar as it is tolerable within a Christian state.
That makes sense? I understand. And do you think that in order to get to that, there's a limit of the consequences that can occur, or it's whatever it takes?
Well, I think the reality is that if we don't find a democratic means to achieve this, one of two things will happen. Either there'll be a general collapse of will to resist, and you'll just see a runaway Islamization. Or, if we can't find a democratic means, there could be a civil war. And the thing is, in the UK, we have all the ingredients. Someone's come to the corner for the first time, right? People who come to the corner for the first time get a bit excited, right? But the point is, as we've got all the ingredients for a civil war in the United Kingdom. You've got all the ingredients for a civil war in France. Different ethnicities, different religions, different ideologies, and a country that can't cohere with itself. All it needs now is a spark. And the spark, the most likely spark, I think, in this country is going to be an economic collapse. GDP in this country and national debt in this country are 1-to-1 equivalents. GDP, the national debt is 100% of GDP, meaning that every pound we produce in the British economy right now is already called for to pay the national debt. It only takes our debtors to call in our debts, and the British economy is going to go through the floor. And then you're going to have what?
Who owns the debt?
The international banking system. But what will end up happening is that you'll end up with millions of men on the street with no jobs, nothing to do, angry, poor, frustrated, and looking for someone to blame. And then different groups are going to blame different groups. And into that milieu, people like me are going to step and say that the solution is Christianity. Into that milieu, the Islamists are going to step and say that the answer is Islam. The ethno-nationalists are going to say blame black people and brown people and Asian people, right? And it's going to end up being this conflagration between different ideologies and ethnicities and religions. And I want a church that can handle that future, that can deal with that future. Because the kind of polite civic religion, let's be a friendly club for middle class people, or let's just practice, goopy Christianity, thank you. That kind of Christianity is not competent to the challenges that we face right now. The thing is, liberalism, it's Christianity, liberalism, or Islam. Choose your poison. But only one of those is going to save you. And that's going to be the Christian faith. And if you, and as someone who is, as Jewish and Gentile, as Jewish and Christian, you have a long heritage in France. Jews have been in France since the Roman times. Christians have been in France since the Roman times. So both of those things can lay claim to France side by side, right?
Yeah.
But Christianity is the thing that molded France.
100%.
Everything about France.
100%.
So if you want to capture and hold on to your French heritage, your French identity, forget the revolution. The revolution is a blip, right? I mean, you ended up having what, like 6 revolutions or 5? How many revolutions have you had? 6?
5, 6.
5, 6. So in other words, they don't work, right? They're not working. But Christianity guided France for over 1,000 years. France was called the oldest daughter of the church. She was its principal defender. Louis IX, who is my personal saint, whom I venerate, who I look up to. I've got a picture of him on my computer. Louis IX is my hero, right? He's a French king and a saint.
Why him?
Why him? Because he was involved in the Crusades. And because he was a true leader.
13th century?
Yeah, 13th century. He was a true leader. You know, when his army was defeated, he didn't run off like lots of kings would have. He stayed with his army all the way to the bitter end. And then even when he was released, he didn't run back to France, even though he could have. He stayed in the Middle East for another 2 years trying to get his soldiers free, right? And he only lost his crusade because of the incompetence and the arrogance of some of his generals. He actually was competent militarily, but he was let down by the hubris and pride of some of his knights, right? So the guy's a full-blown Christian hero. Because being a Christian, being a good Christian is not necessarily about success. Being a good Christian is about faithfulness. Being a good Christian is about living a life of virtue, of courage, of honor, of justice, of bravery in the face of the enemy. You know? And it's about fighting for the kingdom of God against the kingdom of Satan. France has been, since the revolution, in the grip of the kingdom of Satan. Look at what you did to the Vendée in France. Do you know about the revolution and what you did to the Vendée?
No.
Yeah, you butchered. Like, there was a Catholic anti-revolution. There was a Catholic counter-revolution.
The Saint Barthélemy?
Yeah, he's one. Yeah. No, not that. But the Vendée.
No, I don't.
Look into them. And the French Republic, at its birth, wiped out, I think it was, I can't remember whether the number's 30% of the Vendée or 80% of the Vendée, but it was a genocide.
When about was this?
This was immediately after the revolution. So it was in the 1700s, 1800s, right?
I didn't know that.
Yes, you didn't know that, because the blood of the French Republic is built upon the blood of Catholics, right? And so no Catholic should love the Republic, because the pillars of the Republic are built upon the foundations of the martyrs of the Catholic Church. And so to be truly French Christian is to reject the Republic and to fight for a Christian France. Now let me give you a vision of a Christian state.
And a monarch, like within a monarchy?
Well, that's one way to constitutionally do it, and it's the way that I favour, right? But let me explain.
There's a movement in France right now.
Yeah, I know.
That wants to bring back the monarchy in France.
Yeah, but the point is, I'm not sure how Christian their ideas are, or how ethnically nationalist they are.
I think they lean more towards ethically nationalistic than Christian.
As Christians, we should reject ethno-nationalism.
Even if it serves your interest, gets you closer to your goal.
Well, what's the point in compromise? We might as well. Why not compromise with Muslims?
Because I think the end goal you're speaking about is not compatible with where.
But ethno-nationalism.
They want a king, and that would favor.
Ethno-nationalism is not compatible with Christianity. When Louis IX returned from the Middle East, he invited thousands of converts from Islam who were Arabs or Arabized peoples. He invited them to come and settle in France. Thousands of them. That's not ethno-nationalism, is it? He basically said, I'm leaving, all of you Christian converts from Islam, come with me, even though you're Arabs, even though you're Turks, even though you're Syrians, even though you're Egyptian, come with me and live in France.
And it went well?
Yeah. They came, they lived, and they integrated. They integrated because they were Christian. Yeah. Right? Christianity is what allows the integration of races. Ethno-nationalism is against the integration of races because it wants to reject race on the basis of race. Whereas Christianity can integrate races because of a common shared doctrine and value system. So an expression of what a Christian state would look like is that the king, once every 5 years, the king who is a Christian and has been raised as a Christian, discipled as a Christian, and is acknowledged to be faithful by the bishops, would once every 5 years lay out the strategic plan for the nation. The parties in the parliament would then debate the king's speech and argue about the best ways to implement the king's speech and prepare manifestos about how to make the king's speech real. And then the electorate would choose which of those parties they preferred to make the king's speech real. So the king's power is checked by the bishops. The bishops don't get to tell the king the strategic vision. The king lays out a strategic vision, but the execution on a yearly basis is done by political parties. Those political parties are checked by the people because they get elected by the people every 5 years, and then the judiciary steps in to uphold the laws that are passed by the parliament. So you've got a separation of powers. No one's got absolute power.
People feel like they have control.
People do have genuine influence over how they're governed.
But whatever party gets elected, it will be to serve the king's
strategy. Yes, and the king would be a Christian laying out the strategy.
And the only question I have is, how do you select this first king?
Well, I mean, the current king's no good. And the next king's probably useless. So we would have to take hold of the teaching of the young children of William and make sure they were raised.
Keep the bloodline.
We could do, or we could just kick out this monarchy and replace them with a different one. Like the Jacobites. I'd prefer the Jacobites, the Stuarts. You know, who, as you know, probably they flee to France, and France held the Stuarts, and the Stuarts launched their rebellion against the English monarchy from France with French backing. You know? So,
thank you for your time, man. Really appreciate it.
I hope that helps. Let me give you a gift.
Thank you.
It was lovely talking to you. Did you feel you got something from that?
100%.
Brilliant. So have you got a Bible, bro?
I do not have a Bible.
Right, well in that case, there you go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very nice, thank you.
Maybe I'll see you again.
Yes, 100%.
Do you come back to the corner much?
It's the first time I stumbled upon it today. I was on a bike and I didn't know. I learned about the history of it. I learned people have been coming here for over 100 years just to debate, exchange ideas. I'm fascinated by it. So
Yeah.
definitely.
Come again and talk to me again. All right.
Sounds good.
Look after yourself.
Thank
Do you want to have a chat? Oh, no.